These are 10 of the best road trips that you can take in the Western USA. You guys, I've been to over 65 countries, and I've got to say, there's nothing that can compare to the American West.
I can't believe it looks like this here.
It is just full of some of the most beautiful mountains, lakes, beaches, and experiences that just don't exist anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, we just saw a whale, casual whale out here.
You really don't get sweeping canyons like this, rock arches, and this beautiful ocean, and the tallest, oldest, and biggest trees in the world all in one place anywhere else in the world. So without further ado, these are 10 of the absolute best road trips that you can take in the Western US.
Let's explore.
Number 1, we've got to start with the Pacific Coast Highway. It's hard to beat this one because it is just so stunning from top to bottom, but I've got to say I'm partial to the part in California.
Anytime I'm here, I just feel good because this is where I was born and raised.
You're going to start at the very top of California if you possibly can. I've done this drive coming from the south, but you're not next to the water doing it this way because you're on the right side of the road. So consider going from north to south if you can. It's still beautiful either way. You're going to start in Humboldt, California, which is home to some absolutely gigantic redwood trees.
Welcome to Humboldt!
The California coastal redwood is the tallest tree in the world, and you're really going to feel just tiny compared to these gentle giants.
Wow, this feels so nice.
This is such a dreamy part of California, and it's often referred to as the Lost Coast because it's one of the least populated parts of the state. And it's not just the trees that I love here, it's the absolutely beautiful beaches. I've been back 4 or 5 times because I just can't get enough.
Ah, everything here is so beautiful.
Next, you'll make your way down to Mendocino, which is another place I've been probably 5 or 6 times because it is just so dreamy there.
I can't believe I'm looking at this right now.
I've seen some of the best sunsets of my life there. If you look out at the water for long enough, you're probably going to see dolphins or whales, and that's true all along the California coast. But what I love are the cozy B&Bs in this part of the world. It's just so peaceful, and I would just love to live there, to be honest with you.
The air here just feels so good when you breathe it in.
There's also this incredible glass sand beach in Fort Bragg. I've never seen anything like it. It's actually used to be a dump, but the water wore away, and now there is just a beach full of sea glass there. The best time to go is at low tide at sunset, if you possibly can swing it. From there, make your way down to Big Sur, and there's actually a purple sand beach down there. I kid you not, I went and the sand was seriously purple.
Slight purpleness to it, I would say.
Big Sur is just a magical place, and for all the reasons that I love the rest of the Northern California coast, Big Sur just really shines in terms of the beautiful scenery and the quaintness that you can experience there. It's also full of some absolutely beautiful bougie luxury hotels, like the Ali La Ventana. Highly recommend staying there if you possibly can. I can help you get perks if you would like more info in the show notes. But just know that this part of California is quite bougie and exclusive. That's just the California coast for you. Making your way south, you'll stop in Santa Barbara. Absolutely do not miss Santa Barbara. It is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's always in a perpetual spring. It's where I went to university and where I would probably live right now if it didn't cost $1 billion to buy property there. As you make your way south, it'll start to get warmer as you hit the beaches of Los Angeles. I would actually continue to head south if I were you to Newport Beach if you really want to experience some beautiful sandy beaches in California. I lived there for 4.5 years. It truly is just the perfect gateway to things like Disneyland. Laguna Beach is absolutely beautiful. Do keep in mind that you're starting to get deep into the population centers here, so traffic is extremely common. Continue heading south to San Diego. This is our sun and surf capital of the United States, and I've got to say, it truly is nice hanging out around here. There is so much to do. There are so many places that you can stay. If you happen to have kids, there's the zoo, which is a world famous one. It's so big with so much to see. Really, San Diego is just a place for all kinds of adventures and culture. Next, the Highway 95 from Reno to Las Vegas.
This is, I think, just one of the truly strangest, weirdest road trips that you can find in the world.
This is easily one of the quirkiest road trips in the USA, hands down. Starting in Reno, you'll follow the Highway 95, a short detour leading to the Fish Lake Valley Hot Well.
I don't know how much closer I'm gonna film because there's naked people in it.
It's an off-the-beaten-path hot spring, and you can even camp there if you would like to, provided that you leave no trace. From there, you can go to Tonopah, Nevada. It used to be a big mining town, but now there's just a lot of really weird, quirky things there. You can even stay in a haunted hotel, which we decided to do, staying in the most haunted room that they had, the Lady in Red room. They also have a clown hotel there, which is super random.
This is even more clowns than I imagined or expected or could have hoped for.
But I do recommend that you continue onward to Goldfield, Nevada, where you absolutely cannot miss the International Car Forest of the Last Church. It's a whole bunch of nose-down vehicles just in the sand, out in the open, that you can go visit for free. There are plenty of other mind-bending stops on this Highway 95 road trip, including a stop at the Area 51 gift shop, and if you want to take a little detour into Beatty, Nevada, you can see some ghosts having the Last Supper, and this Lego-looking statue of Venus.
I just love stuff like this. So cool.
From there, I highly recommend that you have a California Deserts road trip if you have the time, because this is the perfect gateway from Nevada into California's Death Valley. This is not a summertime road trip by any means, but if you happen to be there during the winter months, I think that this is just one of the absolute most underrated, beautiful national parks that we have in the whole system. The landscape here takes center stage. You've got the artist palette, which has all of these different colors, including pink and minty green.
I can't believe it looks like this here.
You've got the Badwater Basin, which is the lowest point in the US, and it's also an amazing place to go stargaze. The Golden Canyon is one of my favorite hikes, perfect to do after the sunrise at Zabriskie Point, and definitely do it in the early morning hours because even in the wintertime, it feels like it can get boiling hot.
I'm sweating and it's December.
Then you've got the Mesquite Flat sand dunes. These are really cool to check out. It feels like you're in Namibia in the middle of California. However, you're probably going to share this area with a lot of people, so if you want to get some dunes more to yourself, you can head to the Mojave Desert. I camped just outside of the Kelso Dune there, and I've got to tell you, the stargazing is absolutely incredible. There's also some pretty cool lava tubes worth checking out, but much of the Mojave Desert is only going to be accessible to you if you have a four-wheel drive vehicle and are comfortable driving in sand. Otherwise, you can head to Joshua Tree National Park, which has, of course, the Joshua trees, some really cool boulders and rock formations, and just outside of it is 29 Palms, which is such a quirky area to stay. There's some really cool places that you can rent there. We stayed in something called the Birdhouse, which makes you feel like you're in the 1970s. It was truly so cool.
It's like a retro dream.
And do not sleep on Anza Borrego Desert State Park.
We are about to see, honestly, the best sunrise in California.
This is Fonts Point, and once again, you can't really access it without a four-wheel drive vehicle because of the deep sand, but there's other parts of Anza Borrego that are truly stunning and that I highly recommend that you check out. The Washington National Parks road trip. Moving up to the fine state of Washington, this is truly one of the most beautiful states in the entire US. This road trip really only makes sense to do during the later summer months, so anytime from mid of July to September or October before it starts to snow is the ideal time to do this, because a lot of this is quite high in elevation and you might still see snow at the top. First, you can hop from Seattle to Mount Rainier National Park. There's some absolutely beautiful hikes that you can do in this national park, and a lot of them give you this stunning view of Mount Rainier.
It's so pretty here, and there's so many marmots and goats. So many friends.
We had some amazing sunsets there, and that is actually my best tip, is to do a lot of your hiking at sunrise and sunset, and that way you can avoid a lot of the crowds. Bring a headlamp so that you can safely hike back down in the dark. From there, Cascades National Park also has some truly amazing and beautiful hiking. One of your biggest problems on this trip is going to be narrowing down which hikes you want to do. Keep in mind, you'll probably want to be extra fit for this road trip because a lot of these hikes are tough and might even take multiple days, but they're absolutely worth doing if you can. Next, make your way to Olympic National Park. This is the famous Rialto Beach with the broken boulders in the water. This is just such an iconic place. Absolutely recommend going there for sunset.
Pretty, very pretty.
There are plenty of really nice lakes in this national park as well as the Hoh Rainforest, which we didn't have time for, but we did see one of the best sunrises in the park, which I highly recommend.
Here we go.
I've got a whole video dedicated to each of these road trips that you can see in my American Southwest playlist. The US 395. If you're doing the California Deserts road trip, which you absolutely should, the deserts make up 25% of the state, you can go from Death Valley into the eastern part of the Sierras, which is going to be a decidedly different road trip. It's very mountainous, it's beautiful at any time of year. It'll be really snowy in the winter months, which is not necessarily a bad thing. There's a lot to see and do along this road. I first recommend that you stop by the Alabama Hills. This is where they used to shoot a lot of old Western movies, and now you'll see a lot of people free camping here because it's public land. Provided that you leave no trace, you can do the same. There's a lot of really cool rock arches like this one that frames Mount Whitney, which is the tallest point in the lower 48. It's not even that far from the lowest point, which is the Badwater Basin. That blows my mind. From there, you'll head north, and I definitely recommend that you pit stop in Mammoth Lakes, whether you're skiing or hiking. One thing that I love about this area is Convict Lake. I think it's absolutely beautiful and a wonderful place to stay, but also I absolutely love all of the hot springs here. There are so many to choose from.
It's really beautiful.
And if you go in the very early morning hours, particularly around sunrise, you can probably get them all to yourself. This one is even shaped like a heart. As you continue north, there's Travertine Hot Springs off to your right, there's also Mono Lake, which if you happen to catch it on a calm, clear day during sunset, there's pretty much nothing as cool as this looking glass with this alien-like landscape. You'll continue northward up to Reno, where you can make your way up to Lake Tahoe, obviously one of the most beautiful lakes in the entire world. It's the highest alpine lake in North America, and we lovingly refer to it as the Alpine Caribbean around here. You guys, if you're in the American West, do not sleep on Idaho. This is one of the coolest road trips I think we've ever done. We decided to hit a bunch of hot springs in Idaho, starting from Boise and going all the way out to Sun Valley.
A winter wonderland out here.
Starting with Kirkham Hot Springs. This is just a roadside pull-off, so even if it happens to be snowing, this one is still pretty accessible. I visited both in the winter and in the summer months, and I thought it was just beautiful both times, although obviously in the winter it's even more inviting to get into that hot water and under this hot waterfall. Continuing onward to Stanley, honestly this is just one of the most charming towns I've ever been to. I visited here in the winter and the summer as well. This little motel has their own hot spring with a shed around it, and I really love this one for this beautiful mountain view, but honestly all around Stanley there's all kinds of hot springs and you can get beautiful views from anywhere in town. I particularly love this little Witch's Cauldron, which is another roadside stop along the right hand of the road as you're leaving Stanley on your way to Sun Valley. Sun Valley is a favorite spot for the Sawtooth Mountains. If you happen to be in Stanley during the summer months, obviously do a hike in the Sawtooth Mountains. This is truly just a stunningly beautiful part of the world. It's famous for skiing in the wintertime, but it's honestly really wonderful in the summertime too. They have wildflowers, mountain biking, hiking. You just can't go wrong in Idaho. I love this state. Utah's national parks. From the mind-boggling sandstone formations of Arches National Park to the astounding views of Zion National Park, Utah might be one of the absolute best states in the US for an outdoor lover's road trip. I recommend starting your road trip in Las Vegas, where you can see the 7 Magic Mountains, and go to the Valley of Fire State Park. The rest of the stops are kind of in the middle of nowhere, so chances are good you'll be passing through here. Continue onward and you'll get to Zion National Park. I've been here a few times in the spring, summer, and winter, and I've loved it in all of them, although I have to say it is particularly special seeing Zion covered in a coating of snow. Angel's Landing is a hike that you have to have a permit to access now, but you can do the Overlook hike instead, which gives you a similar view. It's just higher up, and this one is open to anyone. From there you get to Bryce Canyon National Park, and this one is a little bit smaller, but do not miss it because these hoodoos are unique and I haven't seen them in a lot of other places. Although it's really cool in the summer, I absolutely loved it when we stopped there in the winter. It was covered in a fresh coating of snow, and the Navajo hike was really cool. There's also plenty of cool overlooks if you didn't bring your snowshoes or spikes with you, but I do recommend that you do at least a few hikes around here because it is just so cool, especially when it's covered in snow with the contrast of the orange and the white. From here, Capitol Reef National Park is one of the largest national parks in Utah, and there is so much to see here, but one of the most famous parts is the Temple of the Sun and the Moon. Now this road is not always accessible, so just keep in mind that you need to check with the visitor center to make sure that it's not an absolute mud pit because people can and do get stuck out there. But if it happens to be dry, the Temple of the Sun and the Moon is truly stunning, and you'll be able to pass by the Bentonite Hills. And before anyone comments that you're not allowed to fly drones in a national park, I know these are different Bentonite Hills in another area, but I just want to show you what Bentonite Hills are so that you have some idea of what you'll see on the way. Your road trip is going to finish in Moab, where you've got Arches National Park. It's super famous for some arches, obviously.
It's impressive, like you said, but you do have to manage expectations.
This is one of the most popular national parks, and it's pretty much always mobbed unless you go at nighttime, where you can get some really cool night photography going through the arches if you happen to be visiting on a new moon. This is also the jumping off point for Canyonlands National Park. This Mesa Arch is one of the most famous photography spots, and you've got to go there for sunrise. Just get there super early if you want a good spot. Onwards to New Mexico. This was one of the coolest road trips I've ever done. It was such a sleeper hit. I highly recommend it. Do not sleep on New Mexico.
Nothing has been majorly crowded yet in New Mexico.
We started our trip in Las Cruces, which is the jumping off point for White Sands National Park.
We're in the park now, and straight ahead I can see like all this white stuff in the air. I'm pretty sure it's sand or like dust. It is windy, folks.
Yes, it is just miles and miles of white sand dunes, but the way that these change colors as the sun sets is really something. Highly recommend that you go in the later afternoon so that you can see a sunset unfold here. The colors are just amazing, even though we're talking about white sand. You've got to go to see what I mean. From there, make your way north to Truth or Consequences. This is a very laid-back, salt-of-the-earth type of hot springs town, and it's mostly just mobile homes on the Rio Grande River. We stayed right on one, and I just was blown away by how beautiful and peaceful the birds were, how much we loved our hot spring. I just highly recommend stopping here. From there, you can head north to Albuquerque, which we just turned into a Breaking Bad trip. I'm sure there's other things to do in Albuquerque, but for us, it was just about visiting all of the filming locations for this series. Next, you can head upwards to Santa Fe, which is way bougier than Albuquerque. I wouldn't spend too much time in Albuquerque, to be honest with you. When you've got Santa Fe, that is not that far away.
I would say Santa Fe appears to me to be the bougiest part of New Mexico.
This is my impression.
There's just so much culture here, beautiful places to stay, and we were really partial to the Meow Wolf, which is a super cool interactive art museum there.
Whoa. This place is honestly so cool.
But out of everywhere I went in New Mexico, where I spent the most amount of time was actually up in Taos.
Oh my god.
This is the Earthship Biotexture, which is an off-the-grid community where they recycle water several times throughout the home. You can grow your food inside, and I spent my time split between 2 different Earthships, both of which were constructed from earth-packed tires, old bottles, old cans. It's really impressive how they build these things. You've got to watch the video just about the Earthship Biotexture here. Finally, Big Bend National Park in Texas. You guys, this is a truly huge area, and it takes a while to get there no matter where you're coming from, but this one's also located on the Rio Grande, and it is a beautiful place to go hiking.
Well, this is nice.
It's also going to be a little bit less crowded than a lot of the other suggestions on this list because Utah, California, and Arizona can be super popular. I definitely recommend catching a sunset on the Rio Grande River,
So I'm standing in Texas, but that's Mexico right there.
going for sunrises in as much of the park as you can, and definitely go during a time when it's a new moon so that you can stargaze. Combining much of the Southwest into one road trip is also a really good idea. I did one where I started in Las Vegas, I did a helicopter over the Grand Canyon. From there I went to Zion, Bryce, and Moab, and then I continued onward to Page, Arizona, which is famous for Antelope Canyon, and I also did a tour of White Pocket because I didn't get a permit for the wave, but White Pocket is such a cool alternative, and while you're doing that, you should definitely add on Sedona. Sedona is a part of Arizona that we've been to several times, and it is just so beautiful. You've got these sweeping canyons full of orange rock, and there's a lot of beautiful places to stay there as well. It's hard to go wrong when you road trip through the American Southwest. It's just truly one of the most stunning places in the entire world, and I hope that this helped you to find your next adventure.